Everybody, good morning. And we are recording this morning. We had, even though we're offering the training 3 times, of course, we had a few people that said they couldn't make any of those times. So we are recording, and we're getting ready to get started. Seems like our participant numbers are been kind of steady for the last minute or two. So um, just a couple of things. Just to a couple of reminders or things that to let you know about. If you want to, if you have a question, we're going to ask that you put your question in chat. We have a couple of people here with us today. I am Sandra Williams. I'm the Director for Sponsor Programs. I have with me Brenda Duggins. She is the Senior Grants Officer, and she will be doing the process part of the presentation after I finish. We also have Jody with us this morning, and Jody is our grant support specialist, and she's going to be handling the chat. She's also our effort reporting manager person, so she's a good person to know if once you get started working on your certifications, if you have a question, she's probably your first contact when you have a question. So Jody Swant is a good one to know. So we're going to get started. And I thought I'd start with some background on kind of what brought us to this point where we are talking to agents about effort reporting. This is something that we really haven't done um, in the past, but we've had some changes. And um, let's get this going. So UADA receives federal Smith-Lever capacity funding from the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, NIFA. And as a part of our 1862 Land Grant Institution mission, Extension is eligible for this Smith-Lever funding. The purpose of the funding is to support agricultural and extension work. Currently, UADA Cooperative Extension receives $6 million annually, a little over $6 million annually in Smith-Lever funding. And as a requirement of us receiving that funding, UADA is required to match those funds dollar for dollar. So the federal government gives us 6 million and we are required to match that with another $6 million. So for many years, we here at Cooperative Extension, we've used the Smith-Lever funding to support your departmental M&O budgets. However, in 2022, UADA was selected by NIFA for a desk review, which is kind of like an audit. And as a result of some of the findings and recommendations of that desk review, we had to make some changes in how we utilize the federal Smith-Lever funding and the federal Smith-Lever matching funds. And one of the big changes that we made was instead of using those dollars toward M&O type expenses, your supplies and things to support your operations, we've switched that funding to actually support the salaries, which is really more in line with what those funds were meant for. So for agricultural and extension work, that's what the Smith-Lever funding is meant for. So really, the work that agents do on a day-to-day basis is the kind of programmatic work that these funds were meant to support. So now we've shifted so that I believe we started October 1st, and a percentage of your salaries are now being charged to paid for from Federal Smith Lever or in supported also by Federal Smith Lever matching funds. The amount allocated to Federal Smith Lever and Federal Smith Lever match for your salary, it will vary based on the amount of the agent's salary that's covered by your county. Okay, so there's a percent of the agent salary that's covered by county funds, and the portion that is not covered by the county funds is split 50-50 between Federal Smith Lever and Federal Smith Lever matching. Okay, the programs and work that county agents perform directly benefit the purpose of the Federal Smith Lever funding. So although county agents will now need to certify that portion of their salary, that portion of their time that's allotted or allocated to Federal Smith Lever or Federal Smith Lever match, there is really no change in the work that the county agents are performing, that any of you will be performing. The work isn't changing. It's just the source of funding that's changing. So what is effort? Effort is that amount of time that you spent working on any particular activity. It includes time working on a sponsored project, sponsored grant, in which that salary is directly charged to either the federal funding or to the cost share funding. What is effort reporting? Effort reporting is mandated. It's a mandated method of reporting where either the employee or someone who has firsthand knowledge certifies to granting agencies that the effort charge or the cost share charge to the award has actually been worked, that those duties or that work has been performed in support of that funding, that federal funding. Why do we certify effort? Well, it's a mandated, it's something we do that's mandated as a federal requirement, as a condition of receiving federal funds. We have to confirm that the time and the effort related to the funding we receive has been worked. At UADA, we not only require certification of all federal grants, but we actually require certification of all grants, certification of time and effort on all grants, regardless of whether they're federally funded, state funded, or local or private funding. If there are salaries paid from a grant, we're going to ask that you certify your time if you have any salary paid from a grant. Why do we certify effort? Well, effort is a part of our organization's effort certification is a part of our organization's internal control system, right? Which helps to provide the needed assurance that payroll charges are accurate, that they are allowable, and that they are reasonable and appropriately allocated. So, who is required to complete effort certifications? Any faculty or agent, administrative staff, professional staff, graduate, undergraduate student, temporary, work only when needed type employee, um, anyone whose salary is paid on grant funds, their time and effort has to be certified. Who actually completes the certification? We'll talk a little bit about that. Who reviews the effort reports? Prior to us distributing effort reports every quarter, effort reviewers will review the report. Our effort reviewers for Cooperative Extension are our grant and contract analysts in sponsored programs. For counties, some of you may be who have grants may be familiar with Brenda Duggins, but she currently handles all county grants. There's going to be a change next week. We have a new staff coming because Brenda has been promoted in our office and she's our senior now. So she's going to be training another staff person. So Sharon Smith in the future will be the person that will be handling county grants, and she starts next week. But she will be the effort reviewer for any of the reports that county agents certify. If there are any changes needed to effort reports, the certifier has to send the report back to the effort reviewer for any changes to be made. So you wouldn't actually make the change yourself, but you would send it back and you would put a note when you send it back. You would put a note as to what change is needed. So effort reviewers and principal investigators both are responsible for reviewing effort reports. Who is eligible to certify effort? So the federal guidance says that an employee or the employee who did the work, the principal investigator whose grant is being worked on, or a responsible official who is using suitable means of verification that that work was performed. There are instances where maybe an agent terminates, or an individual who has not certified their effort for a period that they work, but they have terminated. So that person is no longer here to certify. We may have to reach out to a staff chair or reach out to a principal investigator to ask them to certify on behalf of the person who terminated. If you're certifying on behalf of someone else, the suitable means of verifications that can be used, email correspondence. Of course, if someone is the direct supervisor, they have the direct supervisory responsibility. That person is eligible to certify effort. If there's been contact with the employee supervisor, and if there's some type of established protocol with the employee for communicating changes in their effort, really communicating how they, what they've worked on. If there's notes from meetings or discussions, calendars or travel records, and of course, timesheets and logbooks are also good suitable means of verification. But these are just ways if you're certifying on behalf of someone else. If you didn't do the work, but you have some type of firsthand knowledge of the work that was performed, sometimes you may have to certify on behalf of someone else, if you're a staff chair especially. Verification, sign off, and certification. Who actually certifies? In most cases, it's the employee who certifies. For today's training, we're talking to agents, and agents certify their own time. The only time that's not the case is if an agent terminates. And of course, we'll have to get someone with firsthand knowledge, or the PI or or staff chair to certify on behalf of that person. Um, Professional staff, faculty, they also self-certify. For temporary employees, work only when needed staff, graduate assistants, or students, principal investigators certify on their behalf. So they're not asked to certify directly, although their time has to be certified. It is the principal investigator who certifies on behalf of temporary employees who work on their grants, or graduate assistants or students. Which funds do we certify? We actually receive a lot of funding. So we certify the federal funds. We've talked about that. Some of our federal funds are capacity funds. Federal Smith Lever, that's one of the capacity funds. We also certify FNEP funds. That's also another capacity fund. REA funding, renewable resources, that's another capacity fund that we have to certify any time and effort associated with that. Any state funds that we receive, any local grants that we receive, any private grants that we receive. One thing that I wanted to note is that on the Federal Smith Lever funds in previous years, before the audit, before the desk review, we were keeping the same grant work tag every year. And even in our old legacy and our banner system, if some of you were around, we had these 14,000 funds and the number never changed. That was one of the recommendations that came out of the audit or the desk review, was that we should be changing the funding source, the number, the tracking number every year, because the funds that we received are awarded to us on an annual basis. That $6 million comes to us annually. So as you review your effort reports, what you should focus on is the title of the grant work tag, because the title is going to remain consistent. The number is going to change, but the title will remain consistent. When do we certify effort? We certify effort quarterly. Our fiscal year starts July and goes through June. So the first quarter we certified July through September. We've already certified those reports. We did that in February. The next time we certify will be in May, and we will certify October through December. And that was the first quarter that the agent's time went on this Federal Smith Lever funding. It was in October. It was October 1st. And October 1st, as you all probably know, is the beginning of a federal fiscal year. So the funding that we get from Federal Smith Lever, it starts October 1st every year. So that's why that time frame was selected for agents' time this year to go on this grant. January 1st through March 31st, we certify those in July. April 1st through June 30th, which is the last quarter of the fiscal year, we don't certify that until August. We want to make sure all of our financials are closed, all of our expenses are where they need to be, all of the salary has been paid for where it needs to be paid from, and we certified that last quarter in August. So what effort certification is not? Effort certification is not how the payroll expense was distributed. Yes, when a new agent is hired, a district secretary will probably go into Workday and allocate percentages of the salary to be paid from whatever funding source. But what effort certification is that confirmation that I actually worked that time that was allocated to that particular source. So it is recommended that principal investigators, department heads, staff chairs, supervisors confirm that correct salary distributions for staff at the beginning of each certification cycle. I wanted to point out just a few want to point out just a few red flags. Late effort reports. Uh, whenever we roll out these reports in May, we will have a due date when they're due. And if reports are late, that's kind of a red flag for an auditor. If the certifier, whoever is asked to certify, doesn't have that firsthand knowledge or suitable means of verification, that's a red flag. A lot of times, if over 90%, if 100% of somebody's time is paid on a grant, sometimes that's a red flag for an auditor, because an auditor might say that it's probably impossible for a person to work 100% on a grant and never do anything else. So that's kind of a red flag. Sometimes when there's no effort at all placed on a grant, it may make an auditor wonder, well, what exactly work was performed on this grant if no one's time was put on it. Also, if there's a significant number of changes, if there's so many corrections and recertifications, if we don't have our ducks in a row, and if we're not getting things reviewed and verified and correct the first time, and we're having to go back and recertify, that's also a red flag. If records do not match what was certified, if our payroll records differ from what was certified, that's another red flag. About 10 years ago, we went through a period of a 3-year audit review of our time and effort certification system, which at that time was a paper-based system. We went from the paper-based system to an electronic time and effort reporting system in 2016. And we did that because we had several findings over those 3 years that we were audited. We didn't have our written policy in place. Our reports were not being returned timely. We had late reports. So we were able to adopt an electronic system in 2016. And of course, with Workday being implemented in 2021, we are continuing with the electronic reporting system. It really helps us as far as making sure that we don't have late reports. It doesn't mean that we don't still deal with some issues. Right now, we're dealing with several reports from 2023 that, because of payroll adjustments, we now have to go back and get some reports recertified. So we worked with the Project One team, and now we have some control. And if a payroll accounting adjustment is submitted related to payroll where effort has been certified, there will be an error message that the initiator will receive, and that initiator cannot go any farther. So that initiator won't be able to go back and change any any payroll related to effort that has been certified. If in some rare instances a change need to be made after the effort has been certified, and these unusual instances, we do have a process, and we do cover that process within the effort reporting policy. And you would need to have a district director to approve whatever the justification is for that change. Also, John Anderson, our VP, Associate VP for Ag, would need to approve it, and I would have to approve it. And when I approve it, I will also make sure that the previous report is canceled in Workday, and you would receive another report so that it can be corrected and those changes certified. So once the effort report has been certified, the report is not available for update. If a change is initiated, there will be an error message, and there is a process for making a correction, but we do expect those changes to be few. Okay, I just wanted to put a reminder out here that everything that I've just discussed, everything I've talked about, is in our division's effort reporting policy. You can find that policy on our website under awards management. It's right there, effort reporting policy. That is a good one to just um, kind of go through. If you have a question about anything, the policy is a good place to check, but we're also here and available if you have questions. And with that, we're ready to kind of jump into the process, what you're going to see in Workday, and Brenda's going to do that part, but I'm going to pause and see if we have any questions before we move forward. I don't see any questions in chat, so I guess we're good to go. And Brenda is going to talk about the process.
All right. So when we kick off effort, like Sandra said, it's going to go to your effort reviewer first. But once they review your effort record and they submit it, it will move on to you. If you have email notifications turned on for Workday, you should get an email that tells you that this task is in your inbox. But if you don't, it also will show up just when you log into Workday, either right there at the top of this awaiting action section. If you don't get much in your Workday inbox, you may just see it right there at the top. And if not, then just like you would any other task, you go to your inbox and you look down through your list of tasks until you find it. This is what it looks like. It'll say certify effort for self, and it'll include your name, and it'll also include the dates that we're certifying, the period that this effort certification is for. So you'll know what it is. If you happen to be a staff chair who maybe have to certify for a terminated employee or something, then you would see that employee's name there. So you'll know whose record it is. When you open up your effort record, there's 3 main tabs that show you your effort information, and they all 3 give you a little bit different view of the information. So I'm just gonna kind of walk through real quick the differences between them. On the summary tab, you're gonna see this work tags column, and it's gonna show you the work tags that you were paid on. The MG, this MG number here is the FSL match or cost share. We kind of use those terms interchangeably, but like Sandra said, this MG number may change from year to year, but it should still say FSL cost share, and it'll have the year in there. So those are the words you're going to look for match on your effort record. And then the column to the far right is the percentage that you were paid off of that work tag for that period of time. This first percentage column, just kind of skip over that. It groups, the effort report groups different types of fundings together. And that column is just talking about the percentage of that group. And that really doesn't matter. What we're interested in is the column to the far right. That's the total percentage for that work tag. And then here is the, you just keep scrolling down the page and you'll get to each section. This is the work tag for just the regular FSL work tag is a GR number. But the same thing here, that GR number is going to change, but it'll still say FSL in the title. Charlotte just sent out an email not long ago that the numbers changed. So for October through December, it should be this 2020 FSL tag. But moving into the next quarters, you may have 2 lines. And I didn't say this on the last one, but I thought about it the other day. You may see a line with this 17611 FSL number, and there'll be a percentage. And then you may have a second line in that quarter where we change numbers, and it'll have the new work tag and it'll have a percentage. But as long as those two lines together equal the total you should have been paid on FSL, then it's good to go. It's just because we happen to make a change in the middle of a quarter. But you shouldn't see that on this one. It'll probably be, in the following ones after that. But just to point that out, if you see two different FSL numbers, it's fine. Just look at your total of those two combined. And then down as you keep scrolling, there's a section for your county appropriations at the bottom. The aggregate tab is another view that you can use. And I personally like this view better to look at stuff. It's easier to me. It's easier to see everything. You'll see the award listed and the grant work tag number listed. And then as you scroll over to the right, it breaks everything down by pay period. So you'll see your effort percentage for the pay period, and you'll see the amount that you were paid from that funding source for the period. And you keep scrolling, and you'll get all 6 periods. Since we certify quarterly, there'll be 6 pay periods in each quarter. So you'll see each one of them listed separately, and then over to the far right, you'll see your total percentage and your total dollar amount that you were paid off of those funding sources. One of the things I wanted to point out is we certify effort on base pay. We don't want to include additional compensation. Your effort percentages are just on your base pay. They don't include, I mean, all of us work extra hours sometimes. I know as agents, you guys do trainings and workshops, or you're out and about sometimes on nights and weekends. Those hours are not included. We're just talking about your base pay based on your 40-hour work week. But also any additional compensation like career service payments or FSFI payments, they do show up in the report, but they are not considered part of your base pay. But because they're included in here, they sometimes can throw off your percentages for that quarter if you have them. Career service payments are paid once a year. FSFI payments are paid once a year. So it's not going to be every quarter that you see this, but if you get any of those types of additional compensation, I just wanted to point out what it looks like on here. So if you look at this example, this was an FSFI payment, and those get paid in the first payroll in August. So they get paid out of state funds. So they're down here on this FD 101 line, and you can see that FD 101 line, the dollar amount's higher in that pay period. And so the total at the bottom is higher for that pay period. But if you look at each grant line, if you look at the top 3 lines here, for example, even though the percentage is different in that pay period in August, the dollar amount is the same in every pay period. So even though the total percentage for that one pay period is less than 10%, when you can see in these other periods it was 10%, they still were paid 10% of their base pay because they were paid the same dollar amount in every pay period. So if you happen to look at your summary page and you have these additional compensations and you think your percentages look wrong, take a look at this aggregate tab and see if you have that additional compensation in there. If you do, hopefully your effort reviewer will catch it and include an attachment to show clearly what your base pay calculation is, what your base pay is, what your base pay effort percentage is. And also should include a comment to explain why there's a variance or why there's a difference on your effort record. In any comments that are left show up under the process history tab. They don't show up on any of these other tabs or when you first open your effort record. So you have to kind of look for those a little bit to see them. And then there is a details tab, and the details tab breaks everything down even further. You can look at every individual pay period, and it'll show you every breakdown entirely how you got paid during that period. It'll show you the grant, and then you can see these other work tags, these other information. Under this payroll column, there's something called earnings. This only shows regular salary, but like these detail tabs will show every type of earning that we have. If you took annual leave, if you took sick leave, if you had holiday pay during that period, any kind of leave or holiday pay, it breaks it down into its own row. So you'll see several different rows if you took any leave. And it just gives you every kind of information you could want to know about your payroll for that period, shows up there. And then you still have the amounts and the percentages over to the far right. So once you've kind of looked over all of that, and you have reviewed your effort, then you just need to decide, is it correct or is it not? Is it right? Is it wrong? If it's correct, all you have to do is hit the submit button, the orange submit button at the bottom. If it's incorrect, like Sandra said earlier, you're going to send it back to your effort reviewer so they can be the ones to correct it. You're going to see an orange change effort button at the bottom of your screen, and it will let you click it, but please do not click that button. Just click the send back button. The change effort button is, it opens up the screen to actually make the changes, and it's very tedious. It's very time consuming. It's easy to get confused and mixed up, and it's just our policy to send it back. So even though it's there and it'll let you click it, that's not the button you want to click. Just hit send back. When you click the send back button, you get this box that pops up in Workday. There's a couple of choices in the to box, but if you'll select administrative review, then it will go back to your effort reviewer. And then in the reason box, just let us know what it is that needs to change. Maybe there was a grant that you should have been working on starting on a certain day and it wasn't added to your distribution. Whatever the change is that needs to happen, just put that here in this box and then submit, and it'll go back to your effort reviewer. I do want to point out that this send back box, this reason here will go into the comments. It'll go into the record. It will be part of the official record for effort certification. So if you just have questions, if you're not sure about something or you just want to confirm something, don't use this. Don't send it back in Workday to ask a question. Reach out to your effort reviewer via email or Zoom chat or phone call, and then they can help you decide if you should certify or if you should send it back for a correction. After a correction is made, you'll get your record back in your inbox, and you'll see the status is changed. And at this point, hopefully it's correct and you can just hit submit. But if you still aren't sure or there's still something looks off, then again, reach out to your effort certification or your effort reviewer, and they'll make sure that everything gets corrected the way it needs to be. I did want to point out, because I get a lot of phone calls and emails about this, if you do have to send your effort back and then it gets corrected and you're ready to submit it, sometimes you get this error box that pops up. And all this error is saying is there's something in the to field in that send back screen. So to fix that, you just open up the send back again. You click send back again. You're not going to actually send it back, but you have to open that and X out this who's in the to field here. And then you can cancel the send back, and then it should let you submit your effort record. I don't know why it holds on to that, but it does, and then it just creates this error sometimes. And then the other just kind of reminder is that any comments show up in the process tab. Sometimes things get sent back and forth several times because a comment was left and the person doesn't see it. So I just wanted to remind you, if you get something and it doesn't look like anything was changed, or you are not sure why it got sent back to you, check that process tab, or call your effort reviewer if you have questions. And that's all I have. If there's any questions on the process, we can take those.
There was a question in the chat that I tried to answer, Andrews. But if if there's something I missed in that, but it was basically who is the person that sets percentages, the percentage from each grant, and how do we know what is right? So in this particular training, we're talking specifically about federal Smith-Lever funding, and there is a model that's kind of being used where I don't know how familiar you are with how your positions are funded through the county, but each county has an allocated amount, and there's a memorandum of agreement that's signed with the county where the county judge or whoever signs to say this is how much we're going to support or pay for the agents in our county. So that portion that's paid by the county, whatever portion that isn't paid by the county is distributed 50-50 between the federal Smith-Lever and the federal Smith-Lever match. So that's the portion that you're certifying on. And of course, like I said earlier, it's the funds support the work that you do every day in your county, the work that you're doing on county programs, the work that you're doing in the field. So all of your time is eligible for federal Smith-Lever. So it's not really like a grant per se, where I know some of our agents are involved in, say, our CDC obesity grant, and you may have 5 or 10% of your time where you're supposed to be working on that grant. That's kind of different than the Smith-Lever grant, because the Smith-Lever grant supports all of the county extension program work. That particular CDC obesity grant is very specific, and you would need to track your time associated with the time that you spent working on that particular grant, and that you would have to certify that time as well. I see a question here about are the county funds divided evenly between all county agents in that county, or are they different? I don't know the answer to that. I'm assuming that whatever that split is, it would be included in that memorandum of agreement that's signed each year with the county judge, but I don't know how the funds are distributed within the county.
Your district secretaries would know. That they would be a good person to ask that question to, because they calculate
Absolutely.
that out and figure that out every year. So it was mentioned for WOWN and FNAP. What about SNAP-Ed? So SNAP-Ed, yes, if you get paid on SNAP-Ed, whatever percentage you're supposed to be on SNAP should be on there as well. You'll see that in a separate row on your summary sheet.
Oh, that's correct. The Finance 215, I forgot about that. That information that was mentioned earlier, how the county distributes between the agents. There's a chat that says it can be found on the Finance 215. That's probably correct. Any other questions at this point? I think you can open your mic and unmute yourself and ask any question you'd like. We kind of come to the end of the presentation. I did want you all to know we are going to be available for office hours for the first time that you all certify for the Smith Lever funds in May. We're going to kick those reports off probably the first week in May. That first week will be kind of the effort reviewers time to review the reports and make sure everything looks okay on that end. And once the effort reviewer completes their review, they're going to submit it, and then they will be available in your Workday inbox. So we're thinking these will be available somewhere around the 13th and 14th, probably for the first time. And so we're just going to be available for office hours during on those 2 days, from 1 until 2:30 p.m. on the 13th, and from the same time on the 14th. And sometime at the beginning of May, we will send out the Zoom information. We'll probably send multiple reminders. And it'll just be a good idea if you have your effort report in your inbox. It'd just be a good idea to go ahead and take action on it sooner rather than later. And we'll be there to help you if you have any questions during that time. Thought I saw another chat. Yeah, I don't think that the 215 gets changed as allocations are done. I can't say that for sure. That's more of a financial services question, but I don't think that finance 215 goes back to get updated each time. I do know that those changes are tracked in Workday. Once the initial 215 information, then if there are updates and adjustments, I think that just all happens in Workday. But I can't say that for sure. That would be if Charlotte or somebody from financial services could probably answer that question a whole lot better than I could. Any other questions? Who to call for help? This is our sponsor programs team. Of course, Brenda is the person who handles the county grants, and she's the person who would be handling your effort reporting for the October through December quarter. We have a new person coming that's not even listed here. We didn't want to put her name out there and get a lot of calls and then run her off. So Brenda is the person, and hopefully, it's going to be probably for 80 to 90% of you that are not paid from other grants other than Smith Lever. It's going to be real straightforward. Once you get in there and you see your summary, it's going to all come together and make sense. But we're here for questions. We'll have office hours as well. So with that, there are no additional questions. We'll let you go and give you a few minutes back of your time. It's not quite 11 o'clock, so I think we're done. But definitely, if you have any questions, hang around. We'll be here. Thank you so much for coming.